All right. Thank you very much, Matt, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. Let's talk about middle market AI success. I'll show some real world case studies of value creation driven by your peers. Now, Matt asked me to share my background. I don't like to toot my own horn, but for context, I've been doing this for about 26 years now, 27. So I've been doing this since 1999. It's already 27. I need to get used to saying that in the new year. So my background is that I've did research in behavioral science, so how people behave and make decisions around the future of work for the last 27 years. And it's a combination of spending time in academia researching these topics. So I have a lot of, I was a professor at Ohio State, lectured at UNC Chapel Hill. So that's part of my background. I was also always moonlighting as an academic consultant. So doing consulting for middle market firms on adoption of future of work strategies. So AI, of course, is more recent, but future of work is my expertise. How do you adapt to the situation as the future of work changes? That's always been my area of expertise, and that is where I'm coming from with this presentation. So I've been working on AI for the last 5 years or so, really focusing on AI. But before that, I was focusing on other technologies as well as other future of work trends like hybrid work, remote work, and so on. Now, you've seen my profile. I've published a number of books, including some of the ones you see listed here in the PDF. I appear regularly in venues like Harvard Business Review, Fast Company, Time, Scientific American, Fortune, The Hill, and so on. So pretty big public profile from that perspective, media and book publications. My next book is coming out with Georgetown University Press in October of this year called The Psychology of AI Adoption at Work, From Resistance to Results. So that's a little bit about my profile and my background. Now, I'll tell you right away, if you are watching this on a recording and you're interested in getting the resources from this presentation, which will be a copy of my book that I mentioned on AI adoption and other slides from this presentation, as well as an opportunity for a coaching session, free coaching session with me on AI adoption, you should go to the link that you see there, tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT. So again, tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT. And so you can get that for the resources that I mentioned. I'll put it in the chat just so that you can have it there too. So that's going to be in the chat for your convenience, but especially if you're watching this in the recording, go to tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT. It's going to be right there in the PowerPoint. All right.
Lev, excuse me. I assume that you would welcome LinkedIn invitations for
Absolutely. Yep.
everyone in our group.
Yeah, just let me know that everyone gets LinkedIn spam. Just let me know that you saw me on this presentation, and I'll be happy to accept your invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Matt. All right. So for the structure of this presentation, what you'll see is you'll see three case studies of middle market AI adoption. And then we'll talk about how companies actually adopt tools effectively. Now, I want to give some of the context for middle market AI success by talking about some of the failures. What I see is that a lot of middle market companies are greatly overpaying for AI tools. I was on a call this morning with somebody who told me literally that was not this morning, this afternoon. So this was 2 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago. We're talking about AI adoption, and he runs a financial management firm, so a wealth management firm. And he told me that he really likes his AI note-taking tool. So the vendor provided that, and it costs him several $100s a month to do note-taking and connecting those notes to be automatically pushed into his CRM. And that was pretty shocking to me because he can use low-code tools to get that functionality through no-code, low-code tools for something like $30-ish a month instead of paying several $100s. And that's just for note taking. I was meeting with a company about 10 months ago. We're talking about this was a lunch meeting, so it wasn't a virtual meeting. And we're talking about their AI adoption. And they are a thought leadership company. So they provide thought leadership, and people subscribe to their thought leadership content. And so that's the kind of services they provide. They provide also consulting and training and coaching. And so that's the kind of company it is. They have a tool on their website, an AI tool, a chatbot. It's a pretty reasonable chatbot. It's a smart enough chatbot. And they have a tool that it's on their website that provides reasonable answers based on their content, but short ones. So it doesn't engage much. But if you sign into their platform and through their subscription system, it provides much more. There's a different tool, a variation of this one that provides much more thorough and engaging content. It's trained on all of their IP and it provides thorough answers. Now, I'm curious with this binary tool, kind of one for the outside world that does essentially answering questions that are brief in a brief way, and one that's in-depth, thorough, conversational. How much do you think they're paying per year for this tool? So drop your answers into the chat. So put your answers into the chat. How much do you think they're paying? And for John, middle market, so I'm defining it as companies with anywhere from 10 people to 1,000 people. But in the meantime, drop your thoughts about how much they're paying into the chat. Come on, you also have an idea. You're revenue officers. 1,000, 5,000 a month, 50,000, 12,000, 7,000. There you go. Jim, you're exactly right. It's going to be 50,000 a month. And Charlie, perfect. Yes. I'm sorry, for 50,000 a year, not a month. And they're committed to a 5-year contract. Now, I could have helped them build that tool for less than $10,000 one time without a 5-year contract. And so, yeah, and so they still have 2 years left in that contract. And after that, well, we're starting right now so that they can get out of the contract and replace the tool. But this is something I was pretty shocked by how much they're paying for that tool. I recently found out that the city of New York, you can look this up, this was in the news, they have a similar tool for people for specifically targeted at small business owners who want to open up a business in New York that's trained on all the New York law on business opening. And they're paying something in the $500,000 range for that tool per year. So this is really, really overpaying for these tools. You can get that value for under $10,000 if just from my time, or you can just put in sweat equity, and I'll show you how you can put in sweat equity and learn how to use these tools and have people at your company learn how to use these tools without necessarily hiring me. So I'm not saying that you need to hire me, just giving the financial perspective from what I know in terms of hiring me. But again, I learned how to use these tools, and I come from a behavioral science background. You can just put in sweat equity and learn how to use these tools yourself. So that's something that's really important to understand, that right now companies are really overpaying for AI. Another thing to understand is that if you're buying a black box vendor tool, you're greatly decreasing the engagement and willingness of your folks, your staff, to actually work with a tool, and you're putting a lot of problems in terms of change management. You're buying a lot of problems in terms of change management. So change management is really difficult with AI tools for a couple of reasons. One is that people are really worried about AI. There was a recent Pew Research survey that showed that something like 50% of respondents are more anxious than excited about AI. 10% are more excited than anxious, and 40% are mixed. And so 50% of your employees are going to be highly anxious about AI tools for understandable reasons. They're already replacing jobs. We can very clearly see that. It's showing up in the employment data and elsewhere. And so if your employees get a black box tool, many of them are not going to be willing to use it, not excited about using it. And also, very importantly for AI, is that for an AI tool to work well, you can't just use a off-the-shelf tool. You need to adapt it to your context, to the workflow of each individual person. So, for example, I'm right now working with a firm to build a marketing automation tool. Now we can build just a generic tool that anyone at the firm can use, but what we're doing instead is we're training salespeople, their sales staff, to learn how to build these tools and creating the initial skeleton for them, and then letting the salespeople actually adapt it to each of their individual styles and their workflows. And that makes it a much more powerful tool and makes the staff people much more excited and willing to use it because not only does it reflect their personal styles and their personal approach to sales, but they get to learn how to build these tools. They get to learn AI skills, AI capacity. So their jobs are much more safe and secure because they're actually learning how to use these tools and not only use them, but also build them. And so anywhere where they go next in their jobs, if this company, if something doesn't work out with them with this company, they know that they can build tools and have that capacity that other staff members at the company won't have. And so they will be much more likely to be hired and retain at their job. And so that makes people a lot more excited and willing to use these tools and solves the problem of change management. And it also makes people much more innovative because they can be creative in using these AI tools. The salespeople are adapting it to their needs in a creative, innovative way. When I talk about innovation, I don't simply mean kind of jargony corporate speak. I mean something very specific. I mean being more effective or more efficient. So effectiveness and efficiency is what I mean when I talk about innovation. So here, AI tools can make you more effective, meaning using less resources to do the same thing, and more efficient. I'm sorry, being more efficient, meaning using less resources to do the same thing, or more effective, meaning doing the same thing with the same resources, doing it better, doing it in a higher outcome result. So with the sales process, they're having a more efficient process, having an efficient outcome. They're using less resources to get the sales process accomplished. Now I want to show you an effectiveness tool, a sales effectiveness tool that helps salespeople be more effective in their AI with an AI tool. And this is a sales assistant. So I built this tool for an Ohio company. So Ohio roofers, as roofers anywhere, often miss sales opportunities because of insurance challenges. What do I mean? How does the roofer sales process work? Well, homeowner has some issues, let's say hail on the roof, and then that hail damages the roof, and then they call some roofers. The roofers come, they take a look at the roof, and they take some photos of it, they give a quote, and then the client has to deal with the insurance company to get the claim approved. Now, as you can imagine, homeowners are not great at dealing with insurance companies. Even commercial like businesses are not great at dealing with insurance companies, and they often don't get their claim approved because insurance companies have reasons and motivations to deny claims, or they get a claim approved for replacing 10 shingles. And so it's going to be something like a $3,000 job instead of what the roofer wants, which is a full roof replacement, which is something like a $20,000 to $30,000 job. So this is the problem that roofers have. They are experts at roofing. They're not experts at insurance. And so they don't know how to help their clients with insurance. They don't even try. And so this is a roofing company that identified this issue, and they decided that they'll want to help their clients, their prospects still at that point, the homeowner, they want to help them through the process of getting the claim approved. So this is what this tool does. And I'll show you what the tool looks like. So this, for those of you who use ChatGPT, this is built using a ChatGPT interface. And this is what's called a custom GPT. So it's a relatively simple beginner version usage of custom GPT. What happens is that the roofer climbs to the roof or sends a drone there, takes some photos of the damage and uploads them. And so you could see the upload. And then they get the insurance package from the insured, and that's the renewal package with bill. So the insurance information for the whatever their insurance looks like, they upload that as well. And then they give some information about what they want to achieve. So they want a two-layer tier code strategy. The inspection shows 2 layers of shingles. They need a claim plan that leads to collateral hail indicators. They'll build it using the Ohio Residential Code and ordinance or law coverage. So that is what the roofer who is visiting the homeowner as a result of the homeowner calling them puts in before they talk to the homeowner. So they chat to the homeowner, they go to the top of the roof, they inspect it, then in their van, they put this information into their tablet. They can also put it into their phone, but for this company, they had tablets. So what does the tool do? So here's the reply. It shows that it understands the codes, that it knows that this is a Progressive policy. So Progressive is the company here. It describes the plain English coverage snapshot, why it matters. So directing all claims to home site, not Progressive, because that's the company under which they function. It gets the wind claim hail deductible, 10% of coverage. Then talk about limited loss settlement, so how that matters. Cosmetic damage, that we must prove direct physical loss beyond appearance. And crucially, that Ohio's claims law requires reasonably comparable appearance when repair won't match and mandates fair timelines. And so that's going to be a crucial part of this claims process, because for roofers, if it's not a new roof, it's 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old, often the shingles that are used to make the roof are not available from the vendor anymore. So you can't get a reasonably comparable appearance without replacing the whole roof. Okay, so that's kind of the overview.
So Gleb, this tool you created, when the roofer shows up at the homeowner, he can plug in the insurance company that they have.
Yes, so that's
Cool.
part of the tool. So I'll show the back end of the tool. So you need to build a separate fine-tuned model, GPT, for each separate insurance company to deal with their specific claims process.
Cool.
Okay, then next, the tool gives kitchen table talking points for the homeowners. So what the roofer will say to transform the prospect into an actual client, explaining that we're filing for direct physical loss, that because your roof has 2 layers, the Ohio Residential Code requires a full tear-off before any new roof work. Great. We'll prove mismatch, we'll run brittleness tests, we'll enforce statutory timelines, all that good stuff. Then it gives a step-by-step claim timeline for the roofer to present to the homeowner to, again, transform the homeowner from a prospect into a client. Explains all the timeline steps, submitting first notice of loss, and so on, why, and so on. Then going on to anticipated adjuster objections and rebuttals. So only cosmetic marring. To address this, the evidence to prepare is high resolution photos and the reasoning for the rebuttal, giving the statute and protocol citation. Again, will repair a few shingles is a typical claims adjuster rebuttal. Then you show that the patch won't be reasonably comparable, appearance extends the scope to the whole roof, and so on. So all the rebuttals to the anticipated claims adjuster objections. Then documentation checklist. So again, showing the homeowner that they know what they're doing. Then exact talking points. So telling the homeowner what they will do and what they should say when the claims adjuster actually visits and what they will tell the claims adjuster to make sure to get claims coverage for the full roof. So the roof has two layers. Ohio code prohibits installation of a third layer, so any legal repair requires full tear off to the deck. So great. That's something that the roofer is obviously happy about. And so on. Reasonably comparable appearance. So we need full slope replacement with all slopes within line of sight. Then claim timeline actions will execute, gives all this information. Escalation paths if denied or short paid. Then photo capture plan tailored to the images. And then you could ask it to draft the proof of loss cover letter or on-site inspection script, which I won't show you here for the sake of time, but you could see it starting to draft these. Now, how can you use a tool of this type? Think about your company's sales process. If your company has any kind of customization of its sales process, if you're a B2B business, or if you are just even if you're D2C, but you're selling something complex, something that's more than a few $100s, the expertise of your best salesperson can be spread to all of your salespeople. So this is a sales tool that provides expertise, and it's like your best salesperson standing like a mentor behind the shoulder of even the most junior people. How much more likely would your staff be to convert each opportunity, and for how much more money? So this roofing company, after 6 months, they found that it increased the number of sales by 30% and the size of each sale by 25%. So definitely quite valuable. So I want you at this point to write down 3 ideas where you can apply it to your organization. And then if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me any questions about it. Just drop them into the chat. And I'll give you a minute to write them down, to write down your ideas.
So what you did on their um, program is you put in the various insurance companies.
So I'll show you the back end in a bit. Just I want people to
Oh,
write them
good. I don't
down.
want to
Yep.
preempt your presentation. Sorry.
No worries. IRS responses, personal digital twin. Yep. Can definitely use a tool like this. There you go. Good ideas. Thank you, bud. Okay, so I gave folks some time. You can still drop your questions. Client estimating process. Yep, good ideas. Drop them into the chat. That'll inspire others as well. In the meantime, let me stop sharing this and show you. The back end of this tool. So this is the tool itself, Progressive Ohio Roof Claim Strategist. And so let's take a look at how it was constructed. So there are two crucial parts to constructing any sort of what's called a fine-tuned model. Now, a fine-tuned model is an AI tool where you take a large language model and then you add what's called retrieval augmented generation to it, which is a knowledge base. So retrieval augmented generation is where you make sure that the AI tool, before it gives you an answer, references some kind of knowledge base that's relevant to the answer. And then you also give it instructions for how to answer it. So let's take a look at the knowledge base first. And so the knowledge base is two parts. So one part, yep. One part is a strategic guide to winning the roof replacement battle in Ohio. So this, just so for context, this is about the 9,400 words. And this is a research report on using the Ohio law code on how to make sure that you win the roof replacement battle. that a roofer is able to succeed in a roof replacement battle with insurance companies in Ohio. So that's the nature of this strategic guide. And this is just giving the whole guide for how to do so. And so, with significant citations, as you see. And so this was done. We did an initial research report using AI. I did an initial research report using AI. And then we gave it to some lawyers and independent insurance adjusters in Ohio that the roofing company hired to review the report and improve it until it was at the state where they were happy with it. The other part here, so going to Matt's question, was for the insurance company. So this is specifically for each major insurance company. So we built 8 tools altogether because there are 8 major insurance companies in Ohio. This was specifically for Progressive Insurance. And we built this separate research report for each large insurance company looking at their claims process. And we did the initial research report using AI. Then after doing that, we gave it to some independent claims adjusters who know how to work with Progressive that were hired by the roofer company until it got to a good state, and they edited it to a good state. So those were the retrieval augmented generation knowledge base that the AI references before giving each answer. And then the instructions. So here's the instructions. You are a Progressive Ohio roof claim strategist. The goal is to interpret Progressive homeowner policy and the research reports that you see here, and then create a strategy with built-in reasoning. So it explains what the user will input and then the output. And so you can remember this: the plain English coverage snapshot, kitchen table talking points, step-by-step claim timeline, and so on. Anticipated objections, and then the style of how it should do so. And that's the system prompt. So that's the part that you tell the system, the tool, how to engage, how to interact with the information that you give it. And so it took me about 2 weeks, like about 25 hours of my time, which was about 2 weeks because I worked on a number of projects together to put this tool together. So it was about 25 hours. Then after I did that, gave it over to the roofers. And then the roofers, I told you about how we did the knowledge base. And then the crucial part was giving it to the roofers themselves to work on the instructions, because the instructions are the key for how it actually interacts with them. And so they tweaked these instructions to their needs and customized it and got it to where they liked it, how it worked, and how it satisfied their needs. And so this principle applies to anything that you'll be doing. All of the ideas that people shared before, the real estate agent, the research accounting policy assistant, IRS response, personal digital twin, lead follow-up, all of this stuff would be things that you can build if you are just using it internally using this process. Okay. Shesha asks, what kind of hallucinations have you seen in the roofing tool? None. The point of the knowledge base is that it references the knowledge base before and prevents the hallucinations. A knowledge base is constructed by people who are experts, who are lawyers. Well, we have the initial research report, so just saving time on lawyer fees and claims adjuster fees. And then they reviewed it and they made sure it works well. And the same thing for a Progressive Ohio claim strategy. So if you have a retrieval augmented generation, you have a RAG process, retrieval augmented generation, that is what solves the hallucination problem. So question, why couldn't this be applied to home inspection reporting from end to end? It certainly could be, but it would be more expensive for them to build this. So they just chose to build only this tool to apply to this component of it, which is where their pain point was. So that's what took me about 25 hours. It would have taken me quite a bit longer to build the end-to-end, but they certainly could have. So the difference between creating a GPT and creating a project with detailed instructions and prompts is that the GPT is going to be much more effective in the avoiding hallucinations. So going back to Shisha's point, that the project is not going to reference all the documents as much, and the instructions are also not going to be as well followed if you have it within a project. Any other questions?
So within this roofing company club,
Yeah,
the staff would not seem to be very high tech. These are construction
they're
people,
not
right?
exactly. Yeah, the
Some of
roofers.
them not even
So,
college educated, I would imagine.
sure. Yeah. So, but they can, this is all, so this is why this is so nice. You could see the instructions. This is all natural language programming. You don't have to know anything complex. You don't have to know any coding. Don't have to know anything. This is a little bit more complex, but this is where we got the lawyer and the claims adjusters to weigh in on these. And
Hmm.
after that, it's just the roofers who are tweaking it based on their needs.
I have a question.
Sure.
You're just giving a script. You're talking to people that, are going to just learn this. What is the training teaching them how to really not just memorize the script, but really listen to the client because the client is going to have a question that doesn't fit into the script.
Mhm.
And so, so you have this document. What's the back end or the front end or whatever that you really teach them how to effectively have a conversation, not just read through a list because if they're reading through a list, the customer isn't going to feel that they're heard. They're going to feel you're just going through your checklist.
Right. So, great question, Peggy. So your question is about sales training. So sales training is a different, and for example, built a tool for a company called Kimball Midwest here in Ohio, that basically building a tool for them. That's a sales warrior wrote. So what they do is they provide repair parts to repair sites, and they have 1,500 affiliate reps who drive around and who sell these tools, who sell their repair parts to anyone. And so what we did for them was we created a Road Warrior Copilot, a voice agent where during the drive they can converse with it and ask it for advice about sales, as well as ask it for all the products information, what's available, how to sell these products, getting expertise from their best salespeople, as well as what's available in the warehouse and how soon it can be delivered. So that's a distinct and different tool. That's a sales assistant tool. So this is a tool that's not designed to be an explicit the sales training. Is designed to provide expertise on one part that roofers don't have. So roofers have reasonable expertise in how to do sales. They can talk to people. They know how to do that, but they don't know how to deal with insurance. And so this provides them with the specific expertise to deal with insurance.
Oh,
So
that's interesting. So,
really the idea behind this is that from what I understand is basically the roofer has gone out to the client. The client, they've looked at their roof. There's multiple insurance agencies that they deal with in Ohio. You've put the entire knowledge base into this GPT so that if there's any resistance from the insurance company, this is going to tell you how to handle it to basically get the higher end claim that's possible with the least amount of resistance. Isn't that what that's really doing?
Exactly right. Yep, it's providing the expertise. So essentially helping the company, helping the roofer both replace an independent claims adjuster, but I mean the roofer wouldn't be providing that service. The homeowner has to go and they have to deal with a higher independent claims adjuster if they want. And of course, homeowners don't.
Right.
So this is providing that ability to do exactly what you said. That is the point of the tool. Yes.
I think I've written some GPTs for some tax situations where
Mhm.
a client has sent in some tax letters of penalty interest and things like that, where we work through the IRS, or ultimately it will give you the best scenario that you can choose
Mhm.
and to respond back to the IRS for the highest probability of success.
Mhm.
Not guaranteed that you get 100% success, but gives you the highest probability. And once you have developed the GPT, you don't have to keep doing it
Yep.
for every instance, right?
Mhm.
There's some changes.
Absolutely.
In this particular one, the changes are you've now picked out the top 8 insurance companies within Ohio. If another insurance company comes in that's in the top 8, you can add them along with
Easily.
this same GPT, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly. And the nice thing is, I built them the first tool, but the rest of the 7 they built themselves. They don't need me for those,
right.
because they know how to do that. And same idea. The ninth tool, they can build themselves. They don't need me to do that.
This is where the most progress is happening in the AI space for individuals and smaller companies is developing these GPTs or GMs, depending on what LLM you're using.
Well, there's a lot of progress. So
Yeah,
let me show another tool that I think is going to be of interest, specifically for folks in finance. So this is accounts payable automation. So invoice extraction and file management. It automates the entire invoicing process from data extraction to payment approval to archiving. So what the old way is that finance staff receives invoices, put them into the CRM, put them into the internal file. CRM and the payment system, they put them into internal file storage with minimal metadata. So when you want to store that for 7 years and you want to find an old invoice, you have to search the invoice by hand using the invoice number. Now, this is what it looks like. So this was what their old system looks like, divided by year, divided by vendor, and divided by invoice. The new process is extraction and input. So any invoice is sent to an AI optical character recognition text that extracts specific text fields, that provides a well-organized spreadsheet, adds it to the CRM and payment system. It drafts a payment ready for humans' one-click review and payment approval. And then after extraction, the spreadsheet and invoice are uploaded each day to a site that automatically triggers a SharePoint upload, adds full metadata to columns, and organizes them effectively. So this is what, for example, the invoice looks like. Then here is what the spreadsheet looks like when it's extracted. So all the invoices that are coming in that are extracted with all the details. And then it's uploaded to a website. And then, well, prior to this, I'm not showing the step where it's added to the CRM just because there's nothing too visible to show. It's just added to the CRM. But here is where it then lands with the invoice storage. So you could see this is all rich metadata that is available with everything from the file name to the vendor name, invoice number, invoice, all the details, freight, invoice tax, invoice total, PO amount, and so on. So thinking about this tool, how much time do your people spend on various digital processes that you can automate with AI tools? Whether it's finance, within finance, your domain, or others, ranging from invoice extraction to data retrieval. How many clicks does it take? How much manual labor does it take? And how many clicks can be replaced? How much time can be replaced with a one-click human approval or no click at all? So I want you to write down some ideas where you can apply this in your organization. Please go ahead, write down some notions, and then I showed you the back end is not really something to see because it's just optical character recognition connected to the CRM, but this is just showing you the idea of this tool and how it can be used. So this is a little bit more complex tool that connects various systems to each other through what's called an application programming interface. So API. API is where web programs talk to each other. And so you can connect tools. This is the automation. So the AI here is the optical character recognition. And so you connect that to your CRM, and you connect that to SharePoint. And so all of those systems are interconnected, and they automate things like invoice extraction and storage, or any other process where your people deal with any complexity. So again, type your ideas into the chat and ask me any questions that you might have about this tool. So Charlie says AR aging, reconciliation, collections, vendor payments. Yeah. Bud talks about the extraction of loan data into CRM, organizing for loan administration, determining if there are missing docs. That could be definitely done as part of the process. Onboarding, yes. Sales invoicing, AR aging, yep. Good. And keep sharing ideas. In the meantime, does anyone have any questions about this tool?
Yeah, just a clarification. I mean, absent AI, true AI, like agentic AI and stuff, like, couldn't this be done without AI and the traditional sort of RPA, kind of an OCR, optimal character recognition to get the files in, and then just to have like RPA kind of move those into the right buckets, absent anything with AI?
Absolutely. So the AI, careful here, whoever put it off mute. The AI, the relevant part of the AI here is the OCR, so optical character recognition. And previously, it's only recently that OCR AI has become good enough to do this. Previously, the invoices, you would have had too many errors with invoices to do this reliably. And it's only relatively recently that OCR, through new models of AI, has become good enough to do this type of process. So that relates to the kind of question that Sean asks. How good is the ACR now for more complex invoices? It's quite good. And so it's only recently that it became quite good enough to do this type of process. So previously, I would not have recommended trusting it for the kind of invoices and similar things with numbers where you want to get it right.
When you build something like this, are you selling it as a product or as a service? Meaning,
Oh,
hey, it's one time, one and done, or
one
it's
and
got
done.
potentially ongoing maintenance and or
No,
updates. One
no.
and done. Okay.
What my goal, so I was mentioning at the beginning, my goal is to transfer knowledge. My goal is to teach people how to fish, not make them dependent on me to provide them with a fish. So my goal is to teach folks and have them learn how to use these tools and then be able to build future tools themselves. That's kind of my concern. Like that's what I want people to accomplish. And that's the approach I take. And that's kind of what is different than black box vendor tools. It also helps increase engagement because people like, so this was built with the involvement of the finance team, obviously, and then they can manage it themselves. They can understand how it works. They don't have to rely on me. Okay, Carl asks that you have a system like this in place. Great. It doesn't use AI to learn from past errors. So the AI, you should definitely be using AI to learn from past errors for a process called retraining. So this is a part of this process where you show the AI any errors that it makes and teach it how to do better, going forward. So this is, definitely a problem if you don't have an improvement process in place, a retraining process in place. So if you just have the initial algorithm that does the same things all the time, that will not improve the tool.
Yeah, and when I think about this as sort of an extension of it, like, why couldn't this process also be used in the accruals and looking for, missing invoices and things that have to be accrued for at the end of a month? How would that work with the AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So if it, okay, so again, so careful with the putting yourself on mute. Okay, do hear some background noises, so make sure to put yourself on mute, please. Cool. All right. So in terms of looking at the end of the month, you want to give the AI instructions on what it should look for at the end of the month. And then you can be able to go back and say, okay, here are the kind of things that you should have seen over as you're closing the month. Are we missing anything? Is there anything that from any client, from any vendor, any invoices, whatever they might be, that are missing? And so the AI can help you point out any gaps that you might have, as long as you give the AI correct instructions and the right knowledge base.
But can you talk a little bit about how one sets up some kind of audit process on this whole thing?
So on the process
The
itself, I
the
mean,
instructions themselves, Clem, is what I'm
got
talking
it.
about. How you
Sure.
can easily go back. It's the black box problem.
Mhm.
You've got this tool, it works, but you don't know how.
Mhm.
How do you
So
go
that
back and look at
relates.
the pieces? Is that part of your process in educating customers?
So that relates to the kind of question that Carl asked. And so that is the question of what kind of corrections do you have and retraining. So of course, no process is necessarily going to be perfect the first time around. And so you'll want to see have more human in the loop involvement, spot checking the AI early onward. And then you'll see what the error rate is and see, okay, here's the error rates, here are the kind of errors that we get, and we can retrain it based on the errors until we get to an error rate that's much lower and that we're really happy with. So, for example, uh, there wasn't really much of an error rate with this process because the OCR was quite good and it was getting the right information pretty early onward. With
Hmm?
the roofing sales tool, the error rate wasn't errors, but it was how was it performing in the field and the kind of answers that it was giving in the field. So it took about a month of UAT, user acceptance testing, with roofers saying, "Oh, I want to tweak it this way, and I want to tweak it that way, and here are the tweaks that I wanted to make in order to make it better." And so then over time, the tool became good enough that they didn't have to make any more tweaks.
Well, Gleb, at the beginning of time itself, when we first started introducing computers into our lives, the operative phrase from someone working for me when I questioned the report they had created was, "Must be right, it came off a computer."
Mhm.
It's maintaining the skepticism, I
Mhm.
think, is a huge problem. And since you're a psychologist of sorts, what
Yeah.
do you recommend?
Well, I think people are much more skeptical about AI. I don't haven't seen that be a problem. Lots of people are worried about AI. I gave you that survey that,
Right, the
50% are more
black box
anxious.
problem, Gleb.
Yeah,
The
so people
black
are
box
anxious about
problem.
it.
You don't know
Yes, I
what's going
understand.
on inside the box.
Yeah, so people are anxious about it, they're worried about it, they don't trust it. And that's why the user acceptance testing is so important, that you have a process where the users themselves tweak it and own it. And they change the instructions, they change the guidelines until they're happy with it. So that's why it's crucial for people themselves to learn how it's used and then own the tool and the results of its usage.
Ah, yes, 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 right. So rather than you creating the tool, you teach people how to create the tool, and then they
That's right.
actually do know how it works.
Exactly right. It's not a black box tool. This is all transparent. It's all understandable. So, yeah, this is a fundamental principle of how I work. And here is an example. Let's see. So this is okay. Hold on for a second. This is somebody who I worked with. Let's see. Should be able to hear it now, I think.
I'm Emily Ast, a lawyer and owner of my own law practice. Over the last several months, Dr. Gleb has been instrumental in creating custom AI solutions for many of my administrative tasks that I currently do as part of my business. He is extremely knowledgeable in all things AI and other automation technologies and programmed custom AI agents to do the heavy lifting for me on items like data tracking, analysis, workflow, and invoicing. He took me step by step through the programming and how it works behind the scenes so I can better understand how to adjust this in the future and to use the resources. Through Dr. Gleb's great work, I'm going to save so much time in the future, and I'm really grateful to Dr. Gleb and would highly recommend working with him for all AI and other technology solutions.
That's kind of the basic principle that you want to have, that you want to teach people and have them own the solution and have them understand how it works, have them be able to manage it and maintain it themselves. So for example, this was from one company that I worked with called Kratos Industries. It provides like 100-ish people firm. It provides data service, it does manufacturing for data service centers, for data centers. So after I gave them the initial training and built the initial tool for them, I contacted them in a couple of months to see how it's going. So this was earlier in the fall, and they're saying, hey, things are going pretty well so far. We've been able to make some progress, and are feeling like we can mostly fly on our own. Thanks for getting us in the air. That's the kind of outcome that you want to see, that you want to for yourself, that you want to see, okay, we have a lift, now we can do things on our own, don't have to rely on anyone, don't have to rely on me, don't have to rely on anything.
All right, we have about 5 more minutes. More questions. I think you're at a point where you would like more questions, right?
I would be happy for more questions, but here in the meantime, let me share the kind of support that I'll be happy to offer. Free coaching meeting with me up to 60 minutes. The best approach is to pick a topic based on today's program you want to discuss, like one of these case studies or one of the things that you wrote down that you want to work on. I'll send some free digital resources like a copy of my book and a PowerPoint and occasional IP as we develop it. And like I mentioned, if you're watching this on the recording, if you haven't registered, go to my website and put your information into tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT. So again, tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT. Oh, and that's going to be where the resources will be. Okay. So again, tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT. And I'll be happy to take any questions at this stage.
A couple of questions. I know that a lot of our software providers are working on building AI into their products. What's your thought as to what should we attack ourselves and what should we wait on the software providers to build into their products?
So the simple answer is that tools that you want to own, but you don't want them to own, and those are things that you want to build yourselves, where you don't want to rely on other people. Lots of things I hear from my clients all the time that, hey, this is a tool that we don't own. We don't own the information here. It would be so difficult to switch. They raise the prices on us. It's really a hassle and a problem, but we have so much information in there and we're so reliant on it. And it's also like not working great for our needs. So that's a situation you don't want to be in. The right approach here is to try to build the tools that you can. So think about the tools, and we can have the coaching session. I can describe which tools are easier to build, which tools are more difficult to build, and tell you in more detail what's relevant for you. But the basic principle is think about tools that you can build, try to build those tools, and think about tools that you don't want to rely on, where a lot of data would be in somebody else's database. So you don't want other people to own your data, to own your processes.
Another question is, so I work for a construction company. We build large, complex facilities. So the engineering drawings may run 100 or more pages. And there is, AI software out there that's attempting to do estimates on how many cubic yards of concrete or whatever.
Takeoff estimates.
Yeah. But the challenge is that you may have data on one page that you need to know to understand how to do a takeoff on another page. Any thought? And we just haven't had really good success with coming up with, good answers out of AI.
Yeah, AI will struggle with those sorts of things. So that's a more advanced build. That can be done, but it would take a lot more effort. That's something that I don't recommend for middle market companies to invest into that sort of build effort. It would take a lot of expense to build a really good tool for that specific purpose, for takeoff estimates. So I know exactly what you're talking about, and I've worked with companies that are in construction. We've analyzed this question. They decided that no, it's better to get that from a vendor and focus on tools like sales tools, invoice automation, all of this other stuff that is much easier to build on their own and not rely and get tools that have to do something very much more complex through a vendor.
Do you know, so from an LLM perspective, if you're not, if you're using ChatGPT or Claude or what have you, and you're using your own personal environment, even at work, I guess outside of Copilot, which is done through Microsoft, you've got to worry about security, right? So when you create your GPT or like for instance, that was created here, once that GPT is created and you have it saved as a GPT, is that accessible to ChatGPT anymore, or is it secured?
So for all companies that I do not recommend working within your personal account because the data that's there is going to be something that AI companies will generally train on, unless you go through like a lot of hoops to opt out of it. And it's easy to make a mistake when you're trying to opt out of it. Well, instead, what you want to do with ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude Anthropic is get a business account. And a business account is something, I think for ChatGPT, it's going to be a minimum of 2 accounts for $25, each per month. So 2 seats. And so you can get that. And then all the data is yours. They're not training on it. And so all of it is secure. Same thing for Gemini, that's from Google. Same thing for Claude, that's from Anthropic. It'll be your secure data.
All right, we're at the end
Matt.
of our hour. Gleb, would you want to have any recap or additional comments you'd like to share with everyone?
So again, going back to the beginning, you want to make sure to not overpay for AI tools unless, going to Carl's point, it's something that you really can't build without a lot of expense that only large companies should invest into. So overwhelmingly, for your size companies, you should be building your own tools for the large majority of purposes. Then remember, if you build these tools using the no-code, low-code tools like I described here, you will increase greatly your staff engagement and greatly decrease resistance. So your change management will be much easier, adoption will be much easier, and then you'll increase innovation. And so that is the message that I want to leave you with. And again, the resources that I mentioned are going to be at tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT.
Gleb, this has been a terrific event. I want to thank you for presenting to us. For those of you who are still on, this has been recorded and we'll hopefully make it available very soon on our YouTube channel. Like everything else on YouTube, somebody must have done it already, and you just have to Google it. So it's kind of cool that we've had this great presentation. So Gleb, again, thank you for your time. And again, Gleb has invited everybody to link with him on LinkedIn. Maybe as a final word, disaster avoidance experts, what does that mean in your mind? Where did you come up with that?
That means making good decisions. So what really leads to disasters is making bad decisions. As a behavioral scientist, my goal is to help people make good decisions around the future of work with AI and everything else. And so avoiding disasters is the key here.
I got it. That's great. That's a great final message, gang. So again, thank you, and we'll see you again on Chat with Matt. Gleb, thank you for your time.
Thank you for inviting me. Bye-bye all.